The doors slammed shut at the same time. The sound rolled through the prison like thunder trapped inside stone walls. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted orders that bounced down long, narrow corridors. Inside HMP Pentonville, one of Britain's oldest prisons, the past and the present collided in a single moment. On the top tier of one wing, a fight had broken out between rival groups. It started fast. Too fast for officers to stop. When the noise finally ended, one man was carried out, not moving. Another was locked alone in a cell, shouting that it was not over. The prison went into full emergency lockdown. Phones went dead. Yard time was cancelled. No one was allowed to move. And behind those historic walls, everyone knew this was more than just another fight. It was proof that modern gang control had reached a breaking point inside an old prison never built for it. What happened next would decide whether Pentonville could still hold the pressure inside it. HMP Pentonville had been standing in North London for over 100 years. Its walls were thick. Its halls were long and echoing. The prison was built in a time before gangs, before modern crime, before hundreds of men from different cities were locked together every day. But today, Pentonville was full. Men arrived here from London boroughs like Hackney, Islington, and Lambeth. Others were transferred from Birmingham and other major UK cities when space ran out. Different accents. Different streets. Different rivalries. All inside one old building. Marcus Hill arrived early one morning, chained at the wrists, eyes forward. He had been moved from another London prison after trouble on his wing. No one told him why Pentonville. No one needed to. Everyone knew Pentonville had a reputation. The moment Marcus walked inside, he felt it. The air was heavy. Not loud. Heavy. Like the prison was always listening. A man called out from a cell as Marcus passed. "Welcome to the old house." Marcus didn't answer. Life inside Pentonville moved on strict routines. Lock in. Count. Food. Lock in again. Yard, only if there were enough officers. Phones, only if the wing stayed calm. Calm was rare. Marcus quickly learned the lines. Who stood with who? Which groups stayed apart in the yard? Which tables belonged to which people? No one explained it. You just watched and learned. One afternoon, two groups stood too close together in the yard. Words were exchanged. Officers stepped in fast. Everyone was sent back inside. That night, the prison went into lockdown. No reason given. Rumors spread through whispers at cell doors. They're moving people. Someone got jumped. They're trying to stop something bigger. Marcus lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the old prison. Pipes rattling. Doors closing. Distant shouting that stopped suddenly. Pentonville was full of blind spots. Corners where cameras did not reach. Places built long before anyone thought about modern gangs and constant watching. That was where problems started. Over the next few days, tension grew. Meals came late. Portions were smaller. Showers were limited. Phones stayed off longer than usual. Men grew quiet. Quiet was dangerous. One evening, Marcus heard shouting from another wing. Not playful. Not angry. Scared. Officers ran past his door. Keys rattled. Radios crackled. Then silence. The next morning, one cell down the hall was empty. No explanation. No name. No questions answered. Historic walls, an older inmate whispered later. Modern problems. Marcus understood then. Pentonville was not just old. It was tired. Packed with too many people, too many rival groups, and not enough space to keep them apart. That night, the alarms went off again. Louder. Closer. Marcus stood in the middle of his cell as officers shouted orders and doors slammed shut around him. And as the prison dropped back into lockdown, one thought filled his mind. If Pentonville could barely hold this tension now, how long before something far worse broke through those historic walls? The lockdown did not lift in the morning. Marcus woke up to the same bright light buzzing above his bed and the same heavy quiet on the wing. Breakfast came late and cold. The door stayed shut. Officers walked past without stopping. Radios whispered instead of talked. Something had changed. Inside HMP Pentonville, the prison felt tighter, like a knot pulled too hard. By midday, controlled movement began. One cell at a time. No talking. No stopping. Marcus stepped into the corridor and kept his eyes forward. He could feel people watching anyway. Old rivalries did not need words. They needed space. Pentonville did not have much. In the showers, a man from Birmingham leaned close and spoke low. They're moving people at night. Who? Marcus asked. Anyone they think might start something. Or finish something. That night, the phone stayed off again. Yard time was cancelled. Men shouted questions through their doors. No answers came back. Rumors filled the gaps. Some said the fight from before was not finished. Some said a leader had been targeted. Some said the cameras missed the worst part. Old building, an older man said through the wall. Too many corners. Marcus lay on his bed and listened to the prison breathe. Pipes knocked. Doors clicked. Somewhere far away, a man laughed once and then stopped. The next day, searches began. Officers opened every door on the wing. Mattresses lifted. Papers checked. Shoes shaken. Marcus stood against the wall while an officer looked through his things. Why now? Marcus asked. No answer. By evening, 2 cells on the wing were empty. People noticed. Groups shifted in the yard when it reopened for a short time. Men stood farther apart. Eyes tracked every move. Officers stayed between groups, hands ready. Then it happened. A sudden shout. A rush of feet. A body hitting the ground. Officers moved fast. Too fast for anyone to see what started it. The yard cleared in seconds. Doors slammed. The prison locked down again. That night, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Marcus sat up on his bed. Then a scream cut through the corridor. Sharp. Short. It ended suddenly, like someone had closed a door on it. Silence followed. Marcus stared at his door, heart racing, knowing the prison had crossed another line, and that whatever came next would not be easy to stop. The scream did not come back. That was the worst part. Marcus lay on his bed staring at the ceiling while the old prison settled into silence again. Not the normal quiet. This one felt heavy, like everyone was holding their breath at the same time. Morning came, but nothing changed. No breakfast. No movement. No announcements. Inside HMP Pentonville, the wing felt frozen. Officers stood in small groups at the end of the corridor, talking in low voices. Their faces were serious. No jokes. No small talk. Marcus knew then that whatever happened the night before was bigger than a normal fight. Hours passed before food arrived. Cold trays slid through slots. Smaller than usual. Marcus ate slowly, not because he wanted to enjoy it, but because he didn't know when he would eat again. Across the wing, no one spoke. Empty cells stared back like open mouths. Later that afternoon, controlled movement began again. 1 cell at a time. Marcus stepped into the corridor and noticed something new. Yellow tape blocked off part of the wing. A door he had walked past many times was sealed shut. In the showers, a man whispered, "They found someone." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "Dead?" he asked quietly. The man shook his head. "They won't say. Just, bad." That was how Pentonville worked. Nothing was ever clear. Facts disappeared fast. Rumors stayed. That night, inspectors arrived. Marcus saw them through the narrow window in his door. Clean clothes. Clipboards. Serious eyes. Officers walked close behind them, pointing at cameras, doors, corners. The inspectors stopped near the sealed area. They talked quietly. One of them wrote something down and shook his head. Hope moved through the wing like a soft wave. "Maybe now things change," someone whispered. But Marcus had been inside long enough to know better. The next day, the lockdown stayed. Phones were still off. Yard stayed closed. Showers were limited. Men grew restless. You could feel it in the air. Like static before a storm. Pentonville was old. Built in a time when prisoners were kept alone, silent, separate. It was never designed for modern gangs, modern numbers, modern anger. Now it was packed with men from London streets, from Birmingham estates, from other big cities. Rivalries came with them. History came with them. And there was nowhere to put it all. Marcus noticed how control worked now. Officers did not shout much. They did not need to. Control came from space, or the lack of it. From taking phones away. From locking doors early. From moving people in the middle of the night so no one could react. But even that control was starting to slip. One evening, just before lights were meant to dim, alarms sounded again. Not screaming alarms. Short ones. Sharp. Officers ran. Doors slammed. Radios crackled with fast voices. Marcus stood in the middle of his cell, heart pounding. Then silence returned. The loudspeaker came on. Incident contained. Lockdown remains. No details. That night, Marcus could not sleep. He thought about the historic walls around him. How many men had passed through them? How many fights? How many deaths? How many secrets? Pentonville had survived riots. It had survived reforms. It had survived time. But now, it was facing something different. Not one big explosion, but many small ones. Fights that ended quickly. Screams that stopped suddenly. Cells that went empty overnight. The next morning, a man from Marcus's wing was moved. Gone before breakfast. No explanation. By lunchtime, everyone knew he had been connected to the earlier fight. "They're cutting the head off," someone whispered. Trying to calm things down. But cutting heads off made others nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. That afternoon, the yard reopened for a short time. Officers watched closely. Men stood far apart. No one ran. No one laughed. Marcus leaned against the fence and looked up at the sky. Grey. Heavy. London sky. A man from another wing spoke softly. "This place is breaking." Marcus did not answer. He felt it too. The final lockdown came that night without alarms. Just doors slamming shut together. Marcus stepped back from his door as the sound echoed down the wing. He sat on his bed and waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. Suddenly, shouting erupted from another wing. Not close. But loud enough. Officers ran. Someone banged on a door again and again. Then it stopped. The prison went quiet one last time. The next day, things slowly returned to normal. Phones came back on. Yard opened longer. Meals improved slightly. On the surface, Pentonville looked calm again. But Marcus knew better. Nothing had been fixed. The gangs were still there. The blind spots were still there. The old walls were still holding modern pressure they were never meant to carry. As Marcus lay back on his bed that night, listening to the hum of the lights and the distant sounds of doors closing, he understood the truth of Pentonville. It was not the fights that made it dangerous. It was not the lockdowns. It was not even the gangs. It was the silence after. The way everything went quiet and pretended nothing had happened. Inside HMP Pentonville Prison, the historic walls were still standing. But behind them, modern gang control was fighting a battle it was slowly losing. And sooner or later, something would give.